Good morning. This is Sumant Timsina once again, and I'm not sure which time zone are you in. Good morning, afternoon, good evening, everyone. And I will be just switching to the video. Okay. So this is our webinar number 4, and we're focusing on managing people remotely. Recently, with COVID, many companies had adopted work from home or managing team remotely. But with COVID, the work culture had changed. Many of us are working from home. Employers who were not encouraging work from home, they are forced to do work from home. So there are lots of changes in it. So lots of change in the work environment, and it's very stressful. Lots of people who are used to have FaceTime with their managers, FaceTime at work, FaceTime with colleagues, they have to adjust. Many of us or many of our colleagues have to adjust at home because they at home we have we have senior citizens, we have little children, and we have other chores to do, other disturbances. The TV is on, the kitchen is right there. So how to discipline with this work from home? So that's a big issue, and we have gotten lots of requests. Say, hey, can we do some program? Because in US, especially in US, in technology and lots of other companies, work from home has been a culture now for last, I'll say almost 2 decades or maybe longer. So in my own work, my own work experience and work history, it's been about a little over 15 years that I've been doing work from home. And so I have asked my colleague, Alissa Mazanek, so I'll introduce her shortly. And before that, I just wanted to say some chore here, some household stuff. And so something happening here. Okay. So something is, if you have a questions, so as we proceed, if you have any questions, please send a question in chat window or question and answer. And towards end of the presentation, she will take the questions and try to answer as many questions as you have. If we don't have an answer, we'll get back to you. We will let you know. And this is going to be live on Facebook as well. And so there'll be a lot more audience. And having said that, I just wanted to share a few more stuff that what other presentation are we doing? What other this PowerPoint are we, what other topics are we going to introduce in coming days? So we have already planned for next 6 webinars. Dates will be announced sometime by end of the day today, and you can visit us in our website or in our Facebook or LinkedIn, and you will see it. So there'll be public-private partnership in reviving tourism, regulatory and supervisory responses to COVID by financial institution regulators and financial institutions, anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism, CFT, AML and CFT. And we had a very successful webinar on school. So we received lots of feedback. So there will be a workshop next week sometime. I will know it by end of the day on teaching maths and science virtually. And there will be one on public procurement and corporate governance, et cetera, et cetera. So from this audience, if you think there is something that you would like to see in webinar or you would think that that will benefit you, please send us an email. And we'll be happy to see if we can incorporate that. And our email is listed here, or the email is in the confirmation you received today from this Zoom. So having said that, let me introduce you to our speaker for today. And she is Alissa Mazanek. And Alissa and I go back many years. We worked in Bank of America at one point. And she lives in Phoenix, Arizona, and she holds a master's degree in human resource management and currently a director of learning and development at Pearson. In her role, she is responsible for designing, delivering, and coaching across recruitment services. And previously, she spent 20 years as vice president at Bank of America. And she spent many different roles in Bank of America. And there she has a very wide range of operational management experience. supporting call centers, and at least 15 years of her life she supported call centers and employees development. And she learned from, she has managed learning teams from communications, procedures, engagement, and process design. Passionate about employee experience, and she believes when you are empowered your staff, they will turn well and take care of your customers. So she's currently in sunny Phoenix, Arizona, with her husband and twin children. And today is her children's 10th birthday as well. And here is, I'm going to bring her on the screen, and Alissa, is all yours.
Awesome, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Let me share the presentation that we're going to review today. Suman, can you confirm for me that you can see?
Yes.
Great, perfect. So Suman, thank you for the introduction around how coronavirus, COVID-19 has really been impacting us and how we work and how we interact with our teams. But prior to that, in the years 2005 to 2017, we saw a 159% increase in people working from home offices. However, you know, that's nothing compared to what we're experiencing now. A lot of companies prioritize the safety of their employees, and they've shifted their staffs to work from home. You know, and I applaud those companies who are able to make those decisions to keep their staff safe. What's happening right now, Time Magazine describes as the world's largest work from home experiment. And I think that's totally true. And I love this image in the background of the slide because, as Suman said, there are a lot of distractions that present to us at home. It is almost 7:30 in the morning here at my house, and I have 10-year-old twins and a husband, and I sent them out of the house because they're a distraction. So, you know, the game is changing for us. There are new rules of engagement. So, as Suman said, my name is Alissa Mazanek. I'm a director for learning and development at Pearson. Right now I have a team of 8. All 8 of my employees for the last 3 weeks have been working from home. But prior to that, in 2010 to 2013, when I was with Bank of America, I was working from home myself, and I was leading an organization of almost 50 people who also all worked from home. And during that 3 years, we didn't have video conferencing like this. The technology just wasn't there. So everything was done via chat, via email, or the good old-fashioned way over the phone. So during those 3 years, when I reflect back on it, I interviewed people, I hired people, I onboarded people, I moved people through the corrective action process. I had to sever an employee because of a site closure, and I had to stand up several complex new processes for my team. And that was all, again, done via chat, email, or phone. And it was tough. There was no one there to really guide me, provide direction, and you kind of just, it was trial by error. And you had to really be quick on your feet and adapt. So when Suman approached me and said, hey, we're thinking about doing this topic, to me, I pounced at it because I really wished I would have had some guidance, some advice, a sounding board that could have helped me during that time manage my teams. So that's what brings me here today. So I wanted to share with you the 4 things that remote employees worry about the most. So initially, when someone learns that they're going to work from home, it's all excitement, right? It's nirvana, because we know that they have a better work-life balance in the beginning. They're losing that morning or afternoon commute, so they're gaining time back in their day, so they feel better balance. They cite that there's less work stress, and a lot of that is because they're not in the office and they don't have to engage in the office politics, or they don't have the work drama that's happening around them. And they also report higher levels of autonomy. And that quite simply is because your manager, your boss isn't over your shoulder checking your work all the time. You're at home. But like all good things, that shine starts to wear off and the honeymoon phase ends. And when that does, what you see in front of you are the 4 most common employee concerns for those who are working from home. So let's talk about those. The first one's isolation, and that's that loss of relationship with peers and a manager. For our introverts, it doesn't present as much of a problem, but it's extremely problematic for our extroverts who get their energy from interacting with others. So think about it. There's no more running to a break room and running into a coworker and having a chat. There's no more lingering after a staff meeting and catching up with your teammates. There's no more quick visits into your boss's office just to ask a clarifying question. All that's gone. So the isolation is very real. It's so real, in fact, studies have shown us that with prolonged social isolation, there's a 26% risk of premature death. So it's a very real concern. The next one is exclusion, and this is fear of being left out of the loop and perceived mistreatment by peers. So there was a study done by Joseph Grenny and David Maxfield, and they polled almost 1,200 employees, and a little more than half reported working from home. And it was the remote staff that reported the feeling that colleagues were mistreating them and leaving them out. So things that they cited, they were worried that coworkers were talking bad about them behind their backs. They were concerned that they were making updates to projects without notifying them. So they didn't have the full picture of what was happening. And they were really afraid that no one was lobbying for them while they were at home and they were in the office. So exclusion's a big concern. The next one is losing touch with the company and its culture. And I really need you to reflect what it was like going into the office. You know, on your office building, there was most likely company signage that, you know, created that connection for you with the company. When you walked into the building, and if there was a lobby, again, you saw your brand. You might have seen other information about what the company was doing. When you walked onto the floor, if you were in a call center, there was probably monitors and ticker boards that shared where you were from a goal perspective, how, you know, what's happening. You know, there are other things that are also in an office environment that talk about ad campaigns or recent org announcements or just events that employees can take part in. When we're working from home, all that is gone. There isn't the branding. You actually have to travel out, if there's one, a company's intranet site to see the brand, to see what's happening, to see goals. So it takes a little more effort. The next, or I should say, whoops, I'm sorry. The last is becoming complacent. And for me personally, during my 3-year stretch, this was my biggest concern for myself. The loss of professionalism and that lack of skill building. We get into a routine. You know, and we start off wearing business attire, right? And then suddenly, over time, you might downgrade from a collared t-shirt to a t-shirt, right? And you're not taking advantage of any of the webinars or online training to develop your skill. You stop reading publications because, let's be honest, you kind of feel like you're on an island and you're just doing your own thing. So when I look at these 4 things, for me as a leader of my team, I get really nervous for my team because I've been down this road, whereas they have not. It would really hurt my heart if they felt isolated or excluded. And I certainly can't have them lose touch of the company's goals, and I can't afford for them to be complacent. I need them to continue to be the professional that they are and build on their skill set. So these are the things that our remote employees will worry about. Some may be worried about this already. And this all pretty much stems from that lack of face-to-face interaction. So we have to ask ourselves as leaders and managers, what can we do to alleviate some of these concerns for them? Because we're not face-to-face anymore. We just aren't. And we really don't even know when and if we ever will be again. I think some companies are going to reevaluate their model, and they're going to see benefits with their employees working from home. Or due to future pandemics, they might want to limit how many people come into the office, how many days a week. So we really need to think about that face-to-face interaction and what we can do to kind of bridge that gap. So I shared with you, I worked remote myself for 3 years. And at the end of the 3 years, I took a new role. And this role required me to come into the office 5 days a week. And it was a big change for me. And the first 2 months, really hard. But at the end of the 2 months, it dawned on me that I really liked being in the office. I missed being in the office. And I'm a very, cerebral person. I'm thinking about why, because it's great wearing t-shirts and yoga pants, and it's great just getting out of bed and not having a commute. So why do I like coming into the office? And for me, it boiled down to, I liked the interaction I had face-to-face with people. I missed that. And at the time, 10 years ago, I just chalked it up to, I'm a people person, right? That's why I like it. But over the last 10 years, I've always thought about that concept of face-to-face. What makes it so powerful? Is it magic? And it's not magic. It's actually science. So in my research and my travels, I read an article recently where a Dartmouth professor, Thalia Wheatley, she is a professor of psychological and brain science. And she studies the differences between face-to-face interaction and online interaction. And what are the differences and how we respond and what are the results? And she said something in this article that I read that it's so simple, but it's really profound. And it's screens are distancing. So whether it's a smartphone screen, whether it's a computer screen, it's distancing. Even if we are on a webcam, it's still distancing. There's something that our ancient brains really love about connecting with someone face to face and sharing time and space with someone. That's just the way it is. So again, we don't know when we're going to be face to face with people again. So we really need to, as managers and leaders, find out ways to bridge that gap. We want to make sure that our employees don't experience these 4 things and that we're still able to give them what they need to feel good about themselves. So there are 2 things that we can do. The first is, and let me move all this so it's not cluttering your screen. The first one is communication. So when we are effective communicators with our teams, with our employees, we see several benefits: improved employee commitment and job satisfaction, better employee performance, and we can ensure that there's a consistent approach and strategy across the business. Now, when we look on the right-hand column to connection, we see that there's extra attention to quality in work. We find that employees are willing to give more to the organization, and that's time, that's effort, and even each other. They want to help one another. And we also see improved morale and positive attitude. So when we look at these 2 columns, we can see that there are very similar benefits to being an effective communicator and connecting with your team. So it makes one wonder what happens if we were both, right? If we were an effective communicator and we were connecting with our teams. Do we magnify those results that we see here on the slide? Do we unleash a superpower for our teams? And the answer is, yeah, we kind of do. It's called the highly engaged employee. So when we have highly engaged employees, we see more collaboration, increased teamwork, increased innovation, new ways to solve problems, increased loyalty, and reduced turnover. So that's the state we want to get to. But remember, we have screens now. We know screens are distancing. So we need to figure out how, through screens, we can still be an effective communicator and connect with our employees. And that's really tough. It takes effort. So that's what I'd really like to spend some time talking about today. Things that you can do to be that strong communicator, to connect with your team despite the screens. So let's talk about how we can communicate with employees. So the first one, obvious, over communicate. We are living in an age where there's a lot of ambiguity, and our employees that once traveled into the office and worked from the office, they could get answers very easily. They can't get those answers so easily now. So we need to be transparent and share information that we have in a timely manner. If we do not, they will still look to fill that gap of knowledge, and they're going to turn to water cooler gossip. Water cooler gossip, as we know, is not always reliable, and it's how bad rumors start. So it is up to us as leaders. We need to share the information when we can. Also, we want to use a wide array of communication methods, and we want to select the right ones. So if I had to update my team very quickly on a change in our process, would I wait for a team meeting later that week, or would I send that through instant chat? Instant chat, it's urgent. Now, what happens though if that update was really complex? Would I send a complex update via chat? Probably not. That's where I do need to discuss it in a team meeting so they have an opportunity to ask questions and clarify what's happening. The next one is set clear expectations. And this one is really important in the beginning. So if you haven't done this yet, I urge you to do it as soon as possible. You want to establish rules of engagement. So think about things like email response time. Everyone should respond to their emails within 24 hours, right? Or hours of operation. It's going to be very easy for your employees now to work around the clock. And while that sounds great at first, because production goes up, their morale will go down and they will burn out. And we want to avoid that. We want our employees to stay healthy. So you might want to establish hours of operation. So when your shift ends, close your laptop, turn off your desktop. You don't have to respond to emails. Even if you hear the bing come through, you don't have to respond. So it's rules like that. If you want rules around how and when you receive updates, I want updates every Monday that tell me about your work last week and then about your work that you're going to complete this week. You can do that. Set those rules of engagement. We also need to be direct in what we expect. Again, we're living in ambiguous times, and our employees need to understand very clearly what we expect. So if I told Suman, hey Suman, the work that you did in the office, you're just going to do that same work at home. Just do it the same, we'll be good. Or if I said, hey Suman, I need you to continue doing what you were doing in the office at home. I need you to produce 5 widgets per day, and each widget that you produce needs to meet a quality standard of 98% or higher. Which one's more direct? The second one, outline it for your employees, what you expect. The last one is reset as needed. We're all kind of new at this, right? We're all getting a feel for what it's like managing remote. And maybe the rules of engagement that you initially established aren't working. You're the manager, you get to have a do-over. You get to reset as needed. Perhaps you realize that your updates that you want on Monday, that's too late. The ship sailed. That week's in the past and you can't fix that performance anymore. Maybe now you want a mid-week update. So I want all updates sent to me on Wednesday on the work that you've completed Monday and Tuesday, so I can check to see what's happening and course correct for the rest of the week. You're the manager, you're allowed to reset. The next one is lead frequent team meetings to establish priorities and share updates. Your team meetings will be the lifeline to your team and the work that they're doing. Don't want to cancel these. You want to hold these. What you want to do is always provide an agenda with speakers in advance of the meeting. Again, things are really unclear for employees right now. So we want to provide clarity to them. Let them know what the topics are. Have there be no surprises. Next, it's always a good idea to start your calls with employee recognition and end your calls with questions and answers. Our employees still need to know that we found value in the work that they're doing and we want to recognize them. And they still need an opportunity to ask questions and receive answers. And the last one is we want to tie the work to the company vision, mission, and goals whenever possible. So when we can link the behaviors to outcomes and the outcomes to goals, it really helps crystallize in an employee's mind what they're doing, and how they're doing it, how it impacts the larger organization. Next, we want to conduct weekly one-on-ones with employees. And this is a big shift for a lot of us. When we have these one-on-ones, especially in a remote setting, we need to shift how we think, and we need to start thinking about this as their time, not our time to get updates, not our time to give them feedback, but it's their time to ask us questions. So the first thing I recommend is being present and intentional. Don't multitask. A lot of us have multiple screens, and a lot of us have a lot of work to do. So we might have one screen where we can see the person and they can see us. We might have another screen where we're actually doing work, we're typing, and we're really kind of tuned out. We're not paying attention. This is their time. Be present and intentional. One thing I try to do during my one-on-ones, which are over webcams, I don't like them ever to see me like this, because when they see me like this, they probably think I'm on my phone. What I try to do, and I take notes, they will often see me like this with a pencil in my hand. And when I put my pencil down, they know I'm writing. It's their time. Prioritize them. And you also need to discuss more than work. One, we should always be ensuring our employees are safe first. That's what we want to do. And then look to build the relationship. People are more than who they are in the office. We need to tap into that and understand what drives them at home. What are they passionate about? And build the relationship. Another way to communicate with employees is by starting a daily chat to address questions. And for me, this is huge because it takes the pressure off of me to have all the answers. You have subject matter experts on your team. Allow them the chance to shine and answer these questions that come up in the chat. And also, you have a nice list now of all the questions that your employees have been asking, so you can see if there's any themes or trends and knowledge gaps that you need to address in a team meeting. I do have a call out for senior leaders. You want to make time for conversation. And that can be via a town hall, a fireside chat, conducting skip level meetings. And this is really to address concerns that they may have and calm fears. So let's shift gears. Let's talk about connecting with employees. And for me, this is my passion and what I think is so sorely missed when we are in a remote space. So the first thing you want to do is you want to build that sense of community and collaboration across your team, because that can really be what addresses that fear of isolation and exclusion. It can bring your team together and create an environment where it's fun and engaging. So one thing that you can do that I encourage is you want to engage the team in discussions. As managers, you know, we always think that we have to have all the answers, and we're telling people what they need. We're directing them. We're telling them how they spend their time, how they can improve, how they do their work. You know, we have all the answers. We need to stop. We need to start asking questions. And when we ask questions, what happens is it opens up dialogue and discussions take place. And when that happens, teams start to build trust because they're collaborating with one another. And when teams trust each other and they trust you, that's when true connections can be made. For me recently, I have a very fun team, and it all started, it wasn't my idea. Somebody on my team, one of my trainers, he sent out a meme that was really funny, and he, in the email, he said, we should probably do this every week because we all have fun adding to the memes, you know, in the chat. So I took initiative, and that Monday, we call it Meme Monday. And every Monday we start out with a meme. And lately they've all been about Zoom. So it's like Zoom day 1, where, you know, everyone's polished and professional, and then Zoom day 14, everyone's hair is on end and they're in sunglasses, and, you know, they have Cheeto dust all over them. So we've had a lot of fun with it. But you could also do Quick Tip Tuesday or Friday Feel, like a picture that inspires or brings inspiration, you know, and they share it across your team. The next one is take time to build relationships. I think so often we're like worried about, you know, again, directing work. Implement share time during team meetings. People have passions outside of work. Encourage them to share them during team meetings. Lead virtual coffees. Gone are the days when we can go grab a quick cup of coffee with someone or step out to lunch, but that doesn't mean we should stop connecting with people. Host virtual coffees. The next is team building activities. And this is tough because not every leader has the personality or desire to lead a team building activity. I get it. Not everyone's a cheerleader. Not everyone's a game show host. However, I'm betting you have people on your team who would love for you to delegate this to them, and they could do this for your team. The next one is we want to provide recognition and celebrate accomplishments. Again, some of our people working from home are going to feel like they're living in a vacuum. And we want to be able to provide that recognition and celebrate their achievements. So you can create virtual boards that can be used for sharing success and thanks and appreciation. You can implement team awards, such as fastest person on the team to respond to an email, or person who gives the best advice on the team, or someone who shares the funniest memes all the time that energize the team. And last, you want to continue celebrating birthdays and babies and weddings and graduations. Life is still going on. Suman shared in the beginning, it's my twin's 10-year-old birthday today. You know, it's a big milestone. And I actually took off work. I'm going to do something special, and my boss knows about it. And I know my boss is going to ask me when I have my one-on-one with him tomorrow, how was your day off? What did you do with the kids? Life goes on. Next, you want to be available and become more involved and engaged. Host office hours. So employees, if they don't have, if you run out of time in a one-on-one, or it doesn't feel right asking in a team setting, hold office hours where you have a reserved block of time where people can come and talk to you and ask their questions. The next one, and I've just started recently doing this, and for me, it helps me sharpen that saw so I don't become complacent. I've started blogging on my work's intranet site. and not the CEO, but the one down from the CEO, I wrote an article about maintaining our health while working remote. Because last time I worked remote, I did not maintain my health. So trying to share what I've learned with others. And can you imagine, he liked my article and I was just so overwhelmed. But more than anything, I just want to help other people as well. So it helps me sharpen the saw and build my network. Next, you want to implement activities to increase your team's knowledge and skill sets. So you can host lunch and learn sessions. We're all very smart people, but we don't know everything. So if you know that there's something that your team wants to learn about, or there's a knowledge gap in your team, host a session so you can upskill them. Host a book club. Have teammates pick one book per month to read. It could be a professional book, and you talk about it at the end of the month. The last one, and I've done this even before working remote, invite guest speakers to team meetings. I had a peer once who loved reviewing quarterly reports from our company. She loved profit and loss. She loved reading the report, and she loved sharing her knowledge with others. So I would invite her to team meetings to talk about various aspects of the report, to upskill my team on how to read how their company's doing. And then at the meetings, I would tie it back to, okay, so what is it we do as a team that influences this? How are we helping the larger organization achieve this goal? So remember, we want to link behaviors to outcomes and outcomes to goals. The last, or second to the last, insist on video chats. In this day and age, there are several platforms where we can video chat. Teams, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, we're on Zoom today, Skype, FaceTime, Join Me. Look for ways to connect face-to-face so that screen isn't so distancing. And then for senior leaders, you have to start being vulnerable and you need to start sharing more of yourself. And we need to start asking our employees about them. We're so ingrained, again, to be that answer person and direct and lead and tell, and we need to stop and we need to share and we need to ask questions. So that was the information that I wanted to share with you today. I'm going to stop screen sharing, and what I really would like to do is, wow, we have a lot of questions here, is address some of the questions, but also in the chat, I'm sure you guys are doing also wonderful things to communicate with your team and to connect with your team. So I would love to hear and see you share some of those things that you're doing so we can learn from one another. So Suman, do you want me to just go through the questions from the beginning?
Yeah, you take it. I'm going to compile some other questions, sending you in the personal note, and there are two in the Q&A, rest are in the chat windows.
Okay, so I see that. Best way to minimize the stress developed from working from home. So I would say there's two types of stress, right? There's the mental stress, but there's also physical stress. So I want to focus on physical stress first because I just did that blog about the physical stress of working from home. We need to ensure that ourselves and our teams are taking time away from sitting down so much. If you saw the chair that I was sitting in right now, you would say, well, that's not ergonomically correct. And if I logged 8 hours sitting in this chair, I'm going to feel it the next day. So we need to get up, we need to move. As far as stress, mental stress, I think, again, moving can provide you that release, that break that you need. It's a mixed blessing. My kids, schools have shut down in Arizona. In Arizona, they've already announced there's no school for the remainder of the school year. So my kids are home with me. My husband works at a company that has also let him work remote. It is distracting having everyone here, but I also take such solace and comfort in having my loved ones close to me. So I do, when I step away, I try to take time and I recharge by spending time with them, whether it's helping my kids with a lesson or even just watching a quick TV show with them. So that's, I would say that's how I'm coping with stress. Corporate culture is still emerging for the, hold on, I'm trying to read this, such a large.
You can read the question. Yeah.
Okay. In India, corporate culture is still emerging due to COVID-19 for the first time. Such a large work from home is happening in India. Societies like us, we can't be so vocal about the rules of engagement. What are your views on it? Does the context vary from countries to countries? I would have to say the context probably does vary from country to country. And you want to do what's correct culturally. I know and you want to do, and this is where knowing your team in advance of them being deployed to being at home is helpful, because I knew that my team was a fun team. So I knew that they would respond well to a meme Monday. But if I had a more professional team that was very buttoned up and very reserved, they'd think I was nuts for doing a meme Monday. So you have to do what's culturally correct, but also what's correct for your team. Travel industry is in doldrums. Business either canceled or postponed. No incomes. Offices closed. Working from home is a possibility. Since the lockdown happened abruptly, there was not time to work out strategies. What do you suggest now, especially considering that people shall not travel for quite some time in industry due to leave for months? So I think I might be reading too much into this question. It's what do you suggest we do now because we didn't plan for this? I would say this is the perfect time to start planning. I've been on in my previous career, I've had to be on teams for pandemic planning. And I have to share, it was the planning that we did was never to this degree. It was never to the degree of what happens if you shut down all the sites? What happens if you have to deploy people home? It was never to that magnitude. So I think a lot of people were caught off guard just with the magnitude of this. So I would say, what do you suggest now, considering they're not going to travel sometime? You have time to think things through on how you would better plan for the next time. Because they are saying we're going to see cycles of this until we get a vaccine. Travel industry is, okay, we asked that one. How many hours is ideal screen time for employees in your opinion? I think everybody has their own threshold for what's tolerable. I can tell you from a body perspective, they say, I believe they say for every 60 minutes of work, you should spend 10 minutes up out of your seat. Now, is that realistic? I don't know about you, but my calls, they last 60 minutes. While yes, I'm on a headset and I could stand up, I'm still on a camera and they can see me standing up. And that's not a deal breaker per se, but we want to maintain that professional image. So I would say when you can step away, step away. And if you start, I would encourage your team that if they start seeing negative physical reactions from sitting so long, to come to you and you and your employee talk about what's appropriate. Based on your experience, what are the relationships, if any, between working from home and learning and development of employees? Positive, no relationship, or negative? So I can speak from my experience. Ironically, when I worked from home a decade ago, I was leading associate readiness teams, which were learning and development teams. For me personally, there was a negative relationship. I was not sharpening my own saw. I was sharpening everybody else's saw. For me, if I had a do-over, and I have a do-over right now, I'm going to sharpen my saw. And it's going to be reading publications about learning and development. I'm still, in that field. So when I get my monthly ATD magazine, I read that. I try to take advantage of online webinars. And I'm terrifically happy that Suman invited me to lead this webinar. These are the ways that I'm trying to sharpen my own saw. So it's up to the individual whether or not it's going to be a positive or negative impact. Next, mostly it's been found that organizations have declined due to group thinking and unprofessional activities. As such, how can a leader or manager control the situations to improve? So I think this goes back to, we have to be very clear and set expectations on how we're going to interact as a team. We need to set those parameters. We need to create the boundaries that we need that still ensure that we do collaborate and we're engaging in professional activity. How to be more focused on work while working from home, as there are many disturbances. I think it goes back to boundaries again. And this is where I'm very sympathetic to parents of small ones, little ones who are at home. And I have a member of my team, one of my trainers, she has a little one at home. She has two little ones at home. And her husband, for the work that he does, he is classified as an essential employee, but he is furloughed. So he only works 2 days a week, and then he's home 3 days a week. So they have worked out a schedule amongst them of, and she trains classes like this. They pre-plan the week and try to get ahead of it. But I think more than anything, when we're on calls, we need to understand and be patient with other people's distractions in their home. For instance, my family just came back, so you probably can hear them now. And there needs to be a level of patience and understanding and humility that comes from that, and acceptance that, again, people do more than just work, and they're more than the things, the outputs that they provide 8 hours a day. They have lives that are going on outside of work. And we need to really start embracing that and understanding that. Suman, I know that we're a little bit over, but I do have some more questions. Did you want me to?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a couple more questions you have, and we finish those. And
Okay. How do you inspire, build work momentum amongst the team remotely? As I know, I believe the momentum is kind of a motivation that gets people to bring out their best, especially when no one is watching. So I think there's a couple ways. So we talked about we need to still celebrate successes. And we talked about in the beginning of team meetings, providing recognition to teammates. We call it kudos on my team, provide kudos. When we provide kudos in a public setting like that, whether it's a team meeting or a virtual board or whatever, team email, it's really a multiplier. And it gets people to want to do those things as well to achieve that same level of recognition. And I think that's the momentum that we can use to keep the team going. I would say this, or caution against this: we don't give recognition for the sake of giving recognition, because then it's hollow and then it becomes meaningless. And when we give recognition, it needs to be more than good job. It needs to be, that was a great job because of X, Y, Z. You need to tell them and be specific and direct about what was so great so they can replicate it. And then others who hear you talk about it, they now know what they need to do as well to get recognition. How do we ensure that the workload does not get too much for the team? So great question, because when we're in the office and we can see their faces, we know when they're stressed. We know when they're overworked. We don't have that anymore. And that's why holding the team meetings, my cadence is every 2 weeks. And one-on-ones for my direct reports, I meet with my one-on-ones every single week. And my skip levels, I meet with them every 2 weeks. That's how I personally know. And I think that's how you could check in with your team to understand whether or not the workload's too much. And remember, we talked about setting expectations. You know, it might be too much because of the distractions that we have going around us in our homes. I was on a call the other day where they were talking about the potential to shift the work because the kids, you know, kids are at home, a spouse is at home also working. Is it possible for a person to move from a day schedule to a night schedule? So that one parent can parent now during the day, and then there's like a tag team effect, and now the other parents at night. So you can minimize those distractions. But I think you really need to just have regular touch bases with your people, and you need to ask the question, you know, how's it going? And that's why connecting with your team is so important, because you'll create an environment of trust where they'll tell you how it's going. They'll tell you whether or not it's too much. Do you think having a mini workout desk gym equipment is a good idea on days when you have long meeting hours? How do we motivate team members? Let me answer that one first. So I'm the proud owner of a treadmill desk. I bought it well before COVID-19 because I wanted to train to walk a marathon, and you need to start walking. When you train, you ultimately need to get to 8 to 10 hours of walking straight. No, I am not there yet. I like it, but I will say this: when I am on a call and I need to type or take notes, I can't walk fast, not to train for a marathon anyway. And I'm always cognizant about the noise. Like, can people hear the hum of the treadmill? My team has assured me they cannot hear the hum of the treadmill, and I still do a live chat with them so they can see me working. They can see me walking. For me, I like it. I mean, it gets me a little more active. Even walking at a 2.5 mile per hour pace is better than not walking at all, and it gets me out of my seat. So I like it. How do we motivate team members to come online and start working remotely from their homes? In my travels, most people want to work from home. I think a lot of people have this great perception of, again, you know, they're going to reduce their commute, they're going to gain more time back in their day, they're going to save money because they're not spending money on gas or dry cleaning or eating out for lunch. The kitchen's right here. So I think they want to do it. I think the bigger concern is we let them, and then they see the realities of it. And the realities right now with COVID-19, there are a lot of distractions. It's hard. You feel sometimes chained to your desk. You can't get away. And a lot of people work through the entire day, well past their shift, because they keep hearing their computer bing, bing, with an email coming in. So I want to shift the question, how we motivate team members to come online, rather to how do we motivate employees to be able to work and withstand working from home, because it does have challenges. Okay, we answered that. How to handle distractions at home. This came up again. I think you need to really have a household conversation with the members of your household. And like I had this morning, you know, this is what I need to do. Actually, I had it 2 nights ago, and then I had a refresher last night, and then I had a refresher this morning with this is what I need from you. However, it is now 8:09. I can hear my husband in the other room. He has calls. So I'm very fortunate that I don't have as little kids at home that can understand mom's working, dad's working. You know, we will be with you at this time. If it's an emergency, come to us. And that's, again, we need to establish with our managers and our employees that there will be disruptions in our day. As a leader or manager, how can he or she motivate subordinates? I'm assuming you mean from a virtual space or a remote space. I think I've had leaders in the past who motivated out of fear and intimidation, and you will see short-term results with that. That's not sustainable. That's not a sustainable model. I think our leaders right now, especially during COVID-19, our successful leaders who will be able to motivate people will be ones who lead from compassion, from the heart, who are kind and understanding. And all those can come about when we truly learn how to connect with our teams and understand what motivates each and every single one of them, and try to give them what they need in that moment to really motivate them. Suman, do you want me to keep going? It's 8:10.
I think there's a last question. Let's take it. This is on the reading is self-learning. Yeah.
Self-learning. Reading is self-learning. I'm referring to targeting learning, say says in classroom training, coaching.
That's a follow-up.
What is the, I'm really.
Follow-up of a question was there. What are the relationship, if any, between working from home and learning and development employees?
I think it goes, again, it's going to go back to the individual and an individual's drive to want to better himself or herself. I think I worry about employees in this time working remote and maybe not having a strong leader, or a leader just who knows how to manage a remote team, and they're kind of left on the vine to die. I think managers at this time really need to take advantage of everything that's out there. It doesn't have to be a physical magazine that's sent to the home. There are tons of online articles. So I'm a member of ATD, and I really need to get back in the habit of this. But when I would come across a great article about training and development, or coaching, or you know, anything that I felt could benefit my team, how to give an effective presentation, I would send them the article, or I would encourage my associate director who leads our trainers, can you talk to them about this? Like, I want them to have this skill set in the classroom. Can we talk to them about it? And it really is kind of like a snowball. It's like an avalanche, where when they see one person sharing articles, what I then would see is another team would share an article. And now it becomes this collective group thought about how to improve. So I think that can be one of the connections, but we have the drive to it.
All right, Lisa, thank you so much. Thank you all the participants. And you know, if you were live, we will have given you a big clap from our side. So I think you deserve that. Having said that, please look out for our future webinar. And if you have any more questions, any suggestions, don't forget to send us an email, and we will definitely try to accommodate them. Thank you so much. We ended exactly in 1 hour, and there will be a recording video. We'll post it in LinkedIn and other places. And maybe I will talk to Alissa if she's okay. We'll post her PowerPoint also in our LinkedIn, so you can refer to that. Thank you so much.